What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my Forma building guide for this month's Hall of Forms featuring Legendary Lyn, Hatari Karla, Fallen Ninian, and Thief Leila. We're going to be having scales up to the Mythic Freyr banner because Zephyr is still the last added Grail unit, so unfortunately you're not going to be having access to Flared Sparrow, Attack Speed Pledge, or Infantry Pulse 4. So let's take a look at Legendary Lyn, who's a super old wind legendary unit, and she did get a remix and refine in 2021. So Swift Mulligear does give her +3 resistance, and if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, then she's able to get +5 attack and speed in the combat, and also the feud effect against all kinds of enemies, which is really good. And I think this is the best part of her weapon, which has aged the best because we have seen some really strong support units like Fallen Maria, for example. So Legendary Lyn being able to ignore any kind of drive support of the enemy is super good, and I think it still gives her a niche, even though when it comes to nuking there are just much better nukes. But still this feud effect stays relevant and does stay helpful. And then with her weapon refine, she's able to get 15% of her speed as true damage, which is not too much, but still it's going to be helping her with her damage output. And then she gets another layer of +5 attack and speed. So obviously not the most insane weapon refine, and feud effect definitely carries this. She did get a remix through her Laws of Sake, which does give her +6 to all of her stats, and if her speed is more than foe speed +5, then she's able to get the sweep effect against all melee weapon opponents, which is really good because it's not just a wind sweep effect, it's a melee sweep effect, and this also means that you're not going to be getting counterattacked against the dragons. Of course, meeting the speed check is going to be getting a lot harder as we move on with the metagame with the speed creep, but still at max investment, at least against many of the slower far save tanks and slower melee tanks, she's able to not get counterattacked, which is definitely helpful in survival. And even though this is not the most insane skill, it is still the best slotty skill for her to have because there's no other slotty skill that can give her +6 to all of her stats and the sweep effect yet, so it is still good to have, but other slots can definitely appreciate some premium options. And Legendary Lyn, because of being such an old legendary unit, does need a lot of investment with merges, dragon flowers, and the premium skill. So I would only recommend going after Legendary Lyn's Forma if you're a big fan of her or if you're trying to plus and merger, because when it comes to the nuking potential, there are just so many modern nukes nowadays that can hit so hard. Even though she's a legendary unit, unfortunately she doesn't really score all that high in arena because she's an older unit and she doesn't really have the pair up effect, and she can only run G-Duel Infantry 4 in her slotty because she really wants to have Laws of Sake 2, and she's going to be finding most use in Aether Raid's defense and in Summoner duels because of the feud effect that she has in her Swift Mulligear. And that's where the feud effect is going to be shining the most, but again, there is going to be some insane competition in those game modes for your slots in your team. As for her Forma build, you can definitely try and get her weapon refine if you haven't really refined it yet, but I really doubt that because most Lyn fans have refined her weapon, even if they just use her in like Arena Assault. So you could try and get Whitecap Bow Plus as the alternate option because it could be useful in Rooker Siege. For her slotty, you can pick up Attack Speed Hexblade as a pretty rare premium option, even though Laws of Sake 2 is going to be her best slotty skill and that's what you're going to be using most of the time. But if you want to get a premium skill for her slotty, then this could be the option as it can give you the adaptive damage. Physical Non-Follow-Up is going to be an amazing skill for Legendary Lyn to have because she can shred through the damage reduction by 50% and also get the Null Follow-Up effect, which you really needs. And this is going to be the skill that most people are going to be picking up. But if you already have it, or if you don't really want it for some reason, then Special Spiral 4 is going to be another option that you can pick up because you need some kind of damage reduction piercing, but still Physical Non-Follow-Up is going to be a really good slot B skill to have. And for her slot C, unfortunately she's not going to be having access to Attack Speed Pledge, which could have been a really good skill for her to get. So Attack Speed Oath 4 is going to be the next best option that you can get from Hall of Forms because it does provide you with more offenses and also enables you to warp. And having more offenses is always good on an old unit like her. Time Pulse 4 is also something that you can try and get so that you can have a 1 cooldown special. And if the opponent doesn't really have any kind of guard skill, then you can pretty much trigger the special on your double attack. And this can also be helpful for pre-charging specials with some external support. And finally, for her special, I do like having Ruptured Sky a bit more than Deadeye because she doesn't really have -1 special cooldown in her weapon. And as it is, she's going to be taking care of the damage reduction of the opponents with her slot B skill. So the lower cooldown of Ruptured Sky can help you, and it also gives you boosted damage against Beast and Dragon opponents, against whom she already has the melee sweep effect. So that boosted damage can actually help you in many of the matchups. Hatari Karla is a lance infantry unit who can function as a pretty good melee nuke with her Dry Blade Lance. So this gives her minus some special cooldown, and it also has a super quick and pulse effect built in, which means that she can get -2 special cooldown at start of turn 1. And this is really good for pre-charging AoE specials and getting things going. And then at start of combat, if her HP is at or above 25%, she can get +6 attack and speed in combat, and also deals true damage based on X% of her speed when a special triggers. And this X is dependent on her maximum special cooldown count, multiplied by 10 and then added by 20. Keep in mind that this kind of true damage is going to be getting added to your AoE specials. So with her weapon, she's going to be having a 3 cooldown AoE special, which can essentially get 50% true damage based on her speed, which is quite a lot. And even if you run something lower cooldown like Vital Astra, just the fact that she gets so much true damage is going to be making her hit pretty hard. So I do think that she is going to be functioning a lot better as a melee nuke than trying to build her up as a tank, obviously because of this kind of true damage. And when she came out, she was a meta unit in Summoner Duels with duo dagger teams, but obviously with the time she fell. But even now she can function as a pretty good melee nuke because of the true damage built in her weapon, and also with the super quick and pulse effect built in her weapon. So even at like unmerge or +1 merge, Hatari Karla is going to be able to melee nuke pretty well. And we do have a lot of melee nukes now, but Hatari Karla is definitely one of the better AoE melee nukes that we have in the game. So she could be still useful in like Summoner Duels S, and you can also use her in Aetherite's offense on a Gale Force team and let her function as an AoE initiator, just like how Brave Alm can function in Aetherite's offense, as you've seen in my videos. So that could be done if you have Winter Bernadetta, Spring Bernadetta, or like Tea Time Lysithea or Brave Lysithea. So if you're trying to get some premium skills on her, then you can definitely try and get Vital Astra. Vital Astra is going to be the best special to get, even though like she is not going to be getting as much true damage from her weapon because of its lower cooldown. It is still a pretty hard-hitting special that scales off her speed and also provides her with the damage reduction. And Godlike Reflexes is not something I would recommend getting on her because her weapon doesn't really function with Godlike Reflexes because it's a defensive special, so she's not going to be getting any kind of true damage out of it. She's just going to be able to pre-charge it, and that's pretty much it. And that's why Vital Astra is going to be the special of choice. And when it comes to her slotty skill, you can try and get attack speed finish for so that you can get even more true damage when you trigger your specials. And this is going to be doubling down on her true damage with her slotty skill and slot B skill. Life and Death 4 does help with the AoE damage because with the AoE specials, you want to run skills that can boost up your visible attack. And double Life and Death is something you can easily do on budget. And I don't really think that you should be spending your Forma Soul trying to get Life and Death 4 because it's so easily available in the Divine Codes 4 with Ascended Joshua, Ascended Celica, Ascended Ishtar, and also we did get Leila in this year itself in the limited Ephemerate manuals. So Life and Death 4 is good on her, but not really something you want to get in the Hall of Forms, and I do think that finish skill is a lot better as a premium skill. And then for her slot B, I think that Special Spiral 4 is going to be amazing because she can already set up Special Spiral 4 with her weapon with that super quick and pulse effect. So it is going to be really good for damage reduction piercing, looping your specials, and it also gives you extra +5 true damage whenever you trigger your AoE specials. Now even though you're not going to be piercing through the damage reduction with your AoE specials, it is still a pretty good skill to have just for that extra true damage. And also if you use her with some other special like Vital Astra or Dragon Fang, in that case it can also be pretty good. And like I said before, she is mainly a melee nuke, but if you're a big Karla fan and if you have her at like very high investment, and if you really want to tank with her, then you can try and get a tier 4 damage reduction skill like Close Call 4 or Spurn 4. I do like Close Call 4 a bit more because you can retreat with the movement in something like Summoner Duels where Karla is pretty useful, but still Spurn can give you that true damage, so you can try and get that. But ultimately for most people, I would say that trying to melee nuke is the way with Hatari Karla. And then finally with her Slotsy skill, you can try and run attack speed Oath Force so that you can get more offenses and then warp. But there are many other Slotsy skills that you can try and run depending on your need. So Time Pulse 4 is something you can run if you want to be self-sufficient by pre-charging the AoE special. But I don't really think it's that big of a deal for, pre-charging an infantry unit like her with something like Infantry Pulse support or Asker, Duochrome. So it's not the most insane with her weapon and Special Spiral 4. And I guess this could be useful if you're trying to loop Dragon Fang. That's also a high damage output special that you can run. But again, Vital Astra is something that you can run and trigger twice in a single round of combat if the enemy doesn't have some kind of guard skill. You can also use Time Pulse to loop Vital Astra if you're running her with Spurn 4. And Panic Smoke 4 is also an option, as you can just panic the opponent while also doing AoE damage to them. Colorless Feud is also something you can run if you're really competitive in Summoner Duels and Aetherite's offense, and if you really hate facing Fallen Marias. And then finally, if you're that kind of max investment and high investment Karla user, then Speed Smoke 4 is something you can run to stack up damage reduction if you really want to tank with her. Fallen Ninian is a blue dragon dancer who can be unique with her Call to Flame and also her weapon. So Enveloping Breath does give her +3 resistance, and if she uses a refresh skill, which is her assist, then she can inflict -7 attack and resistance debuff and guard status on the foes in the cardinal direction of herself and the target ally through their next action. And this is definitely pretty nice because it is essentially a ruse dance, and inflicting guard effect on the opponents can be helpful for your tanks and also for your nukes because they're not going to be getting hit by some kind of special on retaliation as long as the enemies don't really have some kind of null guard skill. And then at start of combat, if she's at or above 25% HP, she can get +6 speed and resistance in combat for herself. And then just like any kind of other dragon, she has got the adaptive damage against the ranged opponents. So she's not really going to be hitting too hard with her attack stat, and she's mainly going to be there for the support. And she does provide some good support with her Call to Flame as the refreshing skill, which can refresh the target ally and also give them the +6 attack buff and also the special charges status. Now, back when she came out, this was really unique, but now we have seen other units give out this status effect. So it is not really all that unique, especially considering the fact that Ninian only gives this to the target ally and not to like multiple units at the same time. Still, this is a decent support effect, and then if the target ally is a dragon, then that dragon can get +1 movement. So overall, Fallen Ninian is a pretty decent dragon dancer who can provide some good support, even though there are a lot of dancers and refreshers in the game that have like multiple actions and everything, like Legendary Ninian for example. Fallen Ninian is still going to be decent with the new tools that she has gotten, and she does have the HP to use the supportive skills that can scale off the HP like Infantry Pulse and Sudden Panic, and she also has the resistance to run the supportive skills that scale off the resistance like the Sabotage skills or even the new Ploy skills that we have gotten. So there are definitely a couple of premium skills that you can try and get, and for her weapon, I don't really think that you need to change too much. There's really no other supportive dancer breath that you can easily get, and Call to Flame is going to be her assist, which she's always going to be using. And for her special, there are really not many options. Blue Flame is something that you can get because unfortunately dragon units don't really have access to Ruptured Sky or Gale Force, so it is a decent rare option I suppose. And then for her slotty skill, you can try and get Fire Flood Boost 3, which is actually a pretty nice skill available in this Hall of Forms, just as an alternate option to scale up her HP and also get the guard effect on her. And you can even try and get Still Water actually, which can be helpful if you're running Sabotage skills or Deploy skills. For her slot B, I think that Firestorm Dance 3 is going to be the best support skill that you can get because it provides the Desperation status and the +6 attack and speed buff to the target ally. And Fallen Ninian can get Canto 1, which is really good for retreating. So even though the attack buff is a bit redundant with her Call to Flame, I think that Firestorm Dance is still an incredible slot B skill to get because it provides amazing support to the target ally with the Desperation status and also provides Ninian with Canto 1. So if you already have this or if you don't want to get this, there are still other options that you can run like Wings of Mercy 4, which is amazing on any kind of dancer. And if you're trying to just resistance stack on her, and if you really want to get the Sabotage skill, then Sabotage attack resistance is something you can get. For her slot C, Infantry Null Follow-Up is going to be an amazing skill, which can free up the slot B skill or the Sacred Seal of many of your infantry units so that they don't really have to run Null Follow-Up. And this is again another really good supportive skill that you can try and get. And because it's too early, she's not going to be able to get Infantry Pulse 4, which could have been an amazing skill. But still, Infantry Null Follow-Up is really good. And you want to get Infantry Null Follow-Up over Infantry Speed Tactic because Infantry Speed Tactic is a tactic skill and you can only run like one other infantry unit other than Fallen Ninian if you run that skill. So that's why Infantry Null Follow-Up is superior option when you're using an infantry unit to provide the support. And Canto Control is also something that you can run, and it can be helpful in Aetherite's defense and also in Summoner Duels. And finally, if you want to have some warping mobility, which can be really good with the Canto 1 of Firestorm Dance 3, then a tier 4 Oath skill is something you can pick up like Attack Resistance Oath or Attack Speed Oath. But overall, I really like the combination of Infantry Null Follow-Up with Firestorm Dance for giving both the Null Follow-Up status and the Desperation status. So overall, with Fallen Ninian, you just want to get the supportive skills because that's where she really shines. The final unit in this Hall of Forms patch is Thief Leila, who's an interesting red mage flyer with her weapon Soothing Scent. So this provides her with the Kanto Ally 2, which after the action she can move to a space adjacent to any kind of ally within 2 spaces. So it's pretty amazing for retreating, and then she does have minus some special cooldown, and at start of combat if her HP is at or above 25%, then she can get +6 attack and speed in the combat, and if she's got more speed than the opponent, then she can get the Fire Sweep effect, which is really good for just hitting the opponent safely. And if she attacked, then she can deal 10 damage to the target and the foes within 2 spaces of the target after the combat. So she's not exactly gonna be like an insane nuke, but she's gonna be there to weaken a lot of the opponents, get the splash damage on them, and then just let the allies come in to kill the enemies. And you can easily make some kind of budget build with Poison Strike and Double Savage Blow, but she can definitely try and get some premium skills, but unfortunately not Flared Sparrow, which, I mean, it happens in Hall of Forms, but for Thief Leila it's a big deal because it really upgrades her playstyle with that flame terrain and the damage that she gets in combat. So not having Flared Sparrow is going to be pretty annoying, but you can try and get Attack Speed Unity as a good alternative offensive skill because it can help you when you're facing debuffs. And Attack Speed Catch is also something that you can get, but it's a lot easier to get from the Divine Codes, and I do like Attack Speed Unity a bit more. And then for her slot B, the options are pretty limited for a Mage Flyer that has got a Fire Sweep effect and Kanto built in her weapon. So Sealed Speed 4 is a decent skill for the speed debuff and the guard effect in the combat. And then for the slot C, Soaring Guidance is going to be available in this Hall of Forms, and it is going to be a really strong support skill on any kind of flyer. And Leila, like I said, can work with this skill really well because she can just weaken up the opponents and then just let her flying and infantry allies to warp and get the kills. And if you want to warp with your armor units instead of the flank units, then Guidance 4 is going to be the option. And then finally Attack Speed Oath 4 is also something you can run if you want to teleport with Leila herself, but I think getting Soaring Guidance or Guidance 4 is a lot better and gives you the bang for your buck because these skills are amazing for just having an incredible support for your team. The next month we're going to be having Sacred Stones Hall of Forms, and these are all of the potential candidates that I think have a chance of appearing, and we already know that Legendary Erica and Legendary Ephraim are going to be there because they don't really have a remix banner in October, so the only way they can appear in October is on the Hall of Forms banner unless they change something. So these 2 units are pretty much logged in, which is really exciting because it is going to be not 1 but 2 legendary units in Hall of Forms. And for the 2 other slots, I think it's definitely going to be some kind of magical unit, be it a dragon or a mage, because they always have some source of magical damage in these Hall of Forms. So for that, I do think that young Leon does have a good chance of appearing, and it does go pretty well thematically with Erica and Ephraim, and he is a 4-star focus unit, and they've definitely loved putting those in these Hall of Forms. And then for the green slot, I think that Garrett could happen because he got an amazing weapon refine, and he's going to be missing out on Infantry Pulse 4 if he does appear in the Hall of Forms, which is exactly the reason why I think he can show up. So yeah, that is going to be both sad but also fun. And then I think that if they're not going to be skipping on the colorless option, then they could put Winter Arthur as the green unit, as the, far safe tank. And Young Innes could be an amazing unit that many people might try and get just so that they can update their merge project. And there are not too many colorless options for Sacred Stones, so they may skip on the colorless, but you can come back to this video next month to see if I was right or wrong. And make sure to share this with your friends, and if you did enjoy, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps you tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more favorite videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as having Flared Sparrow on Thief Leila in this Hall of Forms. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.